It's no secret Bitcoin's price is pumping, but we've all heard the quote, buy the rumor and sell the news. Well, in this video, we're gonna see if that holds any merit to Bitcoin's jump in price. Is it a jump? Or is it a dump? In this video, I want to briefly go over a little bit on the fundamentals of Bitcoin and what's currently happening at the moment. I know we've probably all heard it 100 times all over the media, and I'm just going to go over it very briefly. But next, I want to jump into the technicals of Bitcoin and show you guys what's actually happening on the chart of Bitcoin. Without further ado, let's jump right to it. Welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name is Matt Jimenez. I'm an entrepreneur that has worked with the greatest minds in finance over the last several years, and I'm here to pour into you guys everything that they poured into me. Now, we've all heard of the Bitcoin ETF, and the reason it's getting surfaced again, because this isn't the first time about news of a Bitcoin ETF has surfaced. In fact, back in 2013, the Winklevoss twins actually proposed to the SEC a Bitcoin ETF, and it still has not been passed. Since that moment, talks of an ETF has continuously come out in the media, causing a reflection in Bitcoin's price. And what I mean by reflection is some type of movement. In this case, the reason why the movement is so aggressive is because in January, what I've seen January 1st and in other articles that I've read, January 15th, the SEC needs to make a decision on whether they approve the ETF or not. Now, keep in mind, the proposal of this Bitcoin ETF is not for only one, but 9 asset management firms. And one of the biggest ones of the 9 is actually BlackRock. And if you don't know anything about BlackRock, I highly suggest going to the search engine and typing in BlackRock. You will see that they are getting involved in almost every single financial instrument known to man. It's safe to say they are going to monopolize the entire financial game. There's no doubt about it. And they work very closely with the government. And I'm not here to bore you guys with a bunch of Bitcoin news because that's all everyone ever does is just talk about the news, because I find it a bit ironic. Whenever there's massive news that tends to reflect into Bitcoin price, the technicals often show a foreshadowing of that news soon to come out. In this case, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Here is the monthly chart of Bitcoin. And if you guys are wondering what that yellow triangle is right there, if you haven't seen my previous video on Bitcoin's break, I highly suggest you go watch it, because in that video, I actually talked about the move that was about to happen, which was this exact move. So what that formation is right there is an ascending triangle. And oftentimes when that forms on a chart, that is a breakout pattern to the upside, which is playing out exactly perfect and exactly how I said in that video. So go ahead and just click the link that pops up and you will see that video. Another thing that I'd like to highlight, overall, Bitcoin's move has always been to the upside. If you track all these lows, they've all been higher. And if I was to just grab a trend line and plot it, you can clearly see that each moment that we experience a low and people are saying it's a bear market, it is still a lower high than the previous one, which indicates we are still in an uptrend and always have been in an uptrend, even though we've had these periods of downtimes. Those are just correction moves. The up moves are impulse movements and the corrections are to the downside, going to a average, or rather a means. Now, enough of that. Let's talk about the actual price action of what I see happening here. So the Fibonacci tool is an extremely powerful tool. It's applied throughout nature. If you just type in Fibonacci sequence, you will see the golden ratio. You'll see a bunch of things come up, and you'll see how often it's been used for many things. And quite frankly, it's extremely powerful when coupled with financial instruments. In this case, we're going to pull it out for Bitcoin. So the way I use it is I will click on the low point before we had a swing high, go ahead and bring it all the way up to the highs right here. As you can see, this wick is the high of this whole movement. And what's happening right now is we had the ascending wedge break to the upside and we blew past the 50% retracement. And if you guys aren't familiar with this tool helps us measure how much of the move have we regained since its drop in price from the previous all-time high. In this case, we've already recuperated over 50% of this drop since November 21 is when we had our high. As you can see, price lost 78% of that move, which we have already recuperated more than 50% of that drop, which is a significant amount. Now, essentially what these lines are golden ratios, they're mathematical ratios, they're sequences. I'm not going to bore you guys with all the logistics of it. Just go ahead and Google it. But for the most part, we are at a very pivotal point, and it's quite ironic that we have news coming out and you often hear buy the rumor, sell the news. In this case, we are approaching the 38% retracement. Let me go ahead and drop down to a weekly so we can see the price action. Typically, when we get to these zones are known as support and resistance, and they are extremely powerful. So at this moment, I am tracking price and what is going to form on this 38% retracement. Typically, when we get to this level, we will see some type of rejection of price. As you can see, we went a little past this level and price got slightly rejected, and you could see a little wick. If I drop down to a smaller time frame, you will see exactly what I mean. We have a coincidental red candle forming exactly on the 38% retracement. These tools are so powerful, guys, and I think it's quite ironic that technicals are often foreshadowing future fundamentals. For instance, when the news came out, we were right around in this area. For instance, when the news came out, we were right in this choppy area. And what is this choppy area? I'll explain. I grab my trend line here and I just pull this over, grab another one, and I just go across those lows. We have another ascending triangle, which again broke to the upside, just like the one on the higher time frame where you could see quite evidently right here, which is happening again on a smaller time frame, and that is exactly when news was coming out. So over here, the ETF news came out and we broke the level, which the technicals were showing for a break to the upside bound to happen. And I think it's quite ironic that the break just propelled us straight to the 38% retracement on the Fibonacci sequence. As I drop down to a 4-hour, you could see price is hesitant and stalling at that 38. Right now, there is no clear signs of a reversal or anything of that sort. There is possible potential that we can just dip down just a tad, but the move looks strong, guys. We are still holding the highs. I will address this move by the end of the week to see what this candle will close at. If we manage to close on these highs and a little bit above this level, I think Bitcoin could definitely see a $52,000 price point. Also, keep in mind, price tends to move extremely volatile on the rumor of the news rather than the news. What I mean by that, when the news comes out in January, we will most likely not see as an aggressive move as we just saw on the idea of the news. That is the notion behind buy the rumor, sell the news. It's quite evident that the fundamentals were foreshadowing exactly what the technicals were showing us. This is why I like to pay attention to price just as much as I like to pay attention to what's going on in the news. Now, what can you expect in the coming month when we have the SEC actually give the approval or the decline on the ETF? Regardless, majority of the move, I believe, has already been priced in, and we have to be absolutely insane to think that these large asset management firms are not already positioned in Bitcoin. They just don't disclose it. And it may not be a thing that they have on their portfolio, but where there's a will, there's a way. And there is zero chance that the people running these don't have any Bitcoin in their possession. That is a facade. So the idea that there's going to be huge demand coming in to buy up all this Bitcoin so they could use it and allocate whatever they need to in their portfolio is completely nonsense. They are far ahead of all of us. And by them pushing this ETF is only getting a derivative of the Bitcoin. And we all know back in the banking system how when we had derivatives of gold, which we call currency, they never had the amount of gold to the amount of derivatives given out. In this case, I'm speaking on currency. So in the event that they do issue ETFs, there's no way that they will actually have to go in and buy at spot price and buy millions and billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. That is just a dream to get you excited on buying. Regardless, I do believe that Bitcoin is headed further into the future. It's inevitable. It's sound money. And if you guys are paying attention, did you notice that gold also just broke its all-time high and it's still hovering right around it? This is no coincidence, guys. The dollar is getting far weaker, and this is what's causing asset prices to march much higher. If you look at gold, it's at an all-time high. Bitcoin is pumping. Real estate's doing extremely well, even while the Fed is tightening, meaning they're raising rates and they're making it harder to get money. In the tightening environment, they're trying to insinuate saving rather than reckless borrowing and spending and allocating resources into assets. So it's pretty wild to see asset prices climb even though the Fed is trying to tighten. Regardless, the way that I'm positioning myself now and moving forward is relying on software to do a lot of the heavy lifting for me. Last month, I did over 300 trades with only 7 minutes of my time per day for 5 days. And the reason why I'm utilizing software is because I'm allowing my savings account to grow. As I pull profits from there, I'm slowly dripping it into other assets that I'm extremely bullish on, and Bitcoin is one of them. So from the profits of my software, I'm slowly dripping my profits over there and stacking stats. And again, this is not financial advice whatsoever. I just like being transparent in what I'm doing to position myself in the future and my future family. I want to be protected in all realms of finance. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and if you're interested in the software that I'm using, the link is down below. Till next time, peace.